You think this is your place? This is my apartment. Get out, now!
If you want to see a marriage ends in real time, just add Wi-Fi, ring lights, and a narcissistic wife who thinks 10,000 Instagram followers makes her the next Oprah. I'm Nathan Barker, 38 years old, commercial real estate broker, and apparently the world's biggest idiot for not seeing this train wreck coming from a mile away. My wife Tessa used to be different. 5 years ago, when we met at a coffee shop in downtown Minneapolis, she was working as a marketing coordinator and had maybe 200 followers on social media. Now she calls herself a lifestyle influencer and business entrepreneur, which translates to unemployed woman who takes pictures of her breakfast and sells overpriced skincare routines to desperate housewives. The change happened gradually, then all at once. First came the ring light in our bedroom, then the tripod in the kitchen. Soon our entire downtown apartment became a stage set for her daily performances. Everything had to be perfect, photogenic, hashtagable. Our conversations became background noise to her constant phone notifications. But the real poison entered our marriage when Cole Ramsey slithered back into our lives. Cole and I went to college together. He was the guy who borrowed your notes and never returned them, who hit on your girlfriend at parties, who somehow always landed on his feet despite being a complete waste of oxygen. After graduation, I was relieved to never see him again. I built a solid career in commercial real estate, found success, bought properties, made smart investments. Cole bounced between get-rich-quick schemes and motivational speaking gigs. Then Tessa discovered him on LinkedIn 6 months ago. Suddenly, Cole was her business mentor and success coach. He drove a leased Porsche, wore expensive suits he probably couldn't afford, and posted inspirational quotes over sunset photos like some kind of discount Tony Robbins. "Nathan, you just don't understand the influencer economy," Tessa would say, scrolling through Cole's feed. "He's built multiple six-figure businesses. He's offering to coach me personally." Those coaching sessions started happening twice a week, then every other day, always at trendy coffee shops or upscale bars, always lasting hours longer than scheduled. Tessa would come home glowing, talking about breakthrough strategies and mindset shifts. I'm not stupid. I know what a midlife crisis looks like, even when it's wrapped in business jargon and Instagram stories. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening in October. I was reviewing contracts in our living room when Tessa burst through the door, practically vibrating with excitement. "Nathan, this is it. This is my moment." She was already setting up her ring light, adjusting her phone on the tripod. Cole helped me plan the perfect content strategy. I'm going to do a live stream about authentic living and toxic relationships. Something cold settled in my stomach. Toxic relationships? You know how sometimes we stay in situations that don't serve our highest good because we're afraid of change. She was checking her reflection in the phone camera, applying lip gloss. How we settle for partners who don't support our dreams. I closed my laptop slowly. "Tessa, what exactly are you planning to say?" She turned to me with that bright fake smile she used for her followers. "I'm going to be vulnerable and honest about my journey, about how I've outgrown certain relationships and I'm ready to level up my life. Are you planning to break up with me? On Instagram Live? It's not about you, Nathan. It's about my authentic truth. My followers deserve to see real growth, real transformation." She paused, then added with casual cruelty, "Besides, this apartment lease is in my name. If you can't support my dreams, maybe it's time for you to find somewhere else to live." That's when I started laughing. Not a happy laugh, the kind of laugh that comes when someone shows you exactly how little they know about their own life. "What's so funny?" Tessa demanded. "The lease isn't in your name, sweetheart. It's in mine. It's always been in mine." Her face went blank. "That's impossible. I signed papers." "You signed a form adding you as an authorized resident. I'm the primary leaseholder. I pay the rent from my account every month." I stood up, walking to our filing cabinet. "Would you like to see the documentation?" For the first time in months, Tessa looked uncertain. But then her phone buzzed with notifications. People joining her scheduled live stream, and her influencer persona snapped back into place. "Whatever, Nathan. The details don't matter. What matters is that I'm choosing myself for once." She tapped her phone screen. "And I'm going to live in 30 seconds. I could have stopped her, could have unplugged the router, could have reasoned with her, could have begged. Instead, I sat back down and opened my laptop. If Tessa wanted to perform for her audience, I'd give them a show worth watching. Hey, beautiful souls. Tessa's voice shifted into that breathy, intimate tone she used for her followers. I'm coming to you live tonight because I need to share something really important about my journey. I watched the viewer count climb on her screen. 1,200 people, then 1,500, then 2,000. Comments started flooding in. So many of you have been asking about my relationship status, and I've been trying to protect someone's privacy, but I realize that's not serving my authentic self. Tessa glanced at me, then back at her phone. Sometimes we outgrow relationships. Sometimes we realize we've been settling for less than we deserve. The comments were going crazy. Heart emojis, fire emojis, yes, queen, repeated dozens of times. I've been working with an amazing business mentor, some of you know, Cole Ramsey, and he's helped me realize that I deserve a partner who supports my dreams, who celebrates my success, who doesn't try to dim my light. More comments. Dump him. You're too good for him. Living for this energy. So tonight, I'm choosing me. I'm choosing my dreams and Nathan. She turned the camera to include me in the frame. I'm asking you to leave. This is my space now, and I need to surround myself with people who believe in my vision. 2,500 viewers now. The comments were a waterfall of support for Tessa and judgment for me. I gave a little wave to the camera. Actually, folks, I said, standing up and walking into frame, there's been a small misunderstanding. Tessa's eyes went wide. This wasn't part of her script. See, Tessa seems to think she can kick me out of my own apartment, but here's the thing. I pulled out my phone and called the building's front desk. Hi, Janice. It's Nathan in 4B. Could you come up for a minute? I need to clarify some lease information for someone. Nathan, what are you doing? Tessa hissed, but she couldn't turn off the stream now. 3,000 viewers were watching. I'm giving your audience some authentic content about what happens when you don't read the fine print. Janice knocked on the door 2 minutes later. She's worked building security for 15 years. A no-nonsense woman in her 50s who's seen every kind of tenant drama imaginable. What's the problem, Mr. Barker? Janice, could you please explain to my wife and her 3,000 Instagram followers who the primary leaseholder is for this apartment? Janice looked at the phone camera, then at Tessa, then back at me. You are Mr. Barker. Your name is on the lease, you pay the rent, you're responsible for the property. Mrs. Barker is listed as an authorized resident. The comments section exploded. I could see viewers screenshotting, sharing, tagging their friends. And if the primary leaseholder asked you to remove an authorized resident who was causing a disturbance, what would happen? I'd have to ask the resident to leave the premises, sir. Tessa's face had gone completely white. Nathan, you can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious. You wanted to break up with me on social media? You wanted to kick me out of my own home for your content? Congratulations, sweetheart. You just created the most authentic moment of your influencer career. I turned to Janice. Please escort Mrs. Barker from the building. She's no longer welcome here. Wait! Tessa lunged for her phone, but Janice stepped between them. I can explain. This isn't what it looks like. But it was too late. 4,000 people had watched her try to illegally evict her own husband, only to get thrown out herself. The comments were brutal now. Screenshots were already spreading across social media. Her moment of triumph had become a public humiliation. Ma'am, I need you to gather your essential items and come with me, Janice said firmly. You can arrange to collect your belongings later. As Tessa scrambled to grab clothes and toiletries, I picked up her phone, still streaming live. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more authentic relationship content. I ended the stream. Within an hour, clips of Tessa's failed eviction attempt were trending on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Her comment sections filled with laughing emojis and roasting memes. Her follower count started dropping. But I knew this was just the beginning. Tessa wasn't the type to slink away quietly, and Cole definitely wouldn't let his investment in her fail without a fight. Sure enough, my phone started buzzing with texts from Cole within minutes of Tessa's stream ending. Dude, that was brutal. She's devastated. Can we talk? She's staying at my place tonight. We need to figure this out like adults. Call me. This doesn't have to get ugly. I didn't respond. I was busy researching Minnesota tenant law and documenting everything that had just happened. If Cole and Tessa wanted to play games, I'd make sure I was ready. The next morning, I woke up to find 17 missed calls from Tessa and 43 text messages ranging from apologetic to furious to threatening. The last one, sent at 3 a.m., was the most interesting. Cole says you can't just steal someone's home. We're going to court. I made coffee, reviewed my lease agreement one more time, and called my lawyer. Angela Morrison is the kind of attorney you want in your corner during a divorce. sharp, ruthless, and completely unimpressed by emotional manipulation. I'd worked with her on several commercial real estate deals over the years. Nathan, I saw the clips online. Your wife really stepped in it, didn't she? Ex-wife, hopefully. Angela, they're threatening legal action, something about stealing her home. Based on what grounds? You showed the lease on camera. She has no legal claim to the property. I know that, and you know that, but Cole's convinced her otherwise. I think they're going to try something stupid. Let them. Document everything, don't engage directly, and let me handle any legal correspondence. In the meantime, start thinking about what you want in the divorce settlement. That afternoon, I got my answer about what Cole and Tessa were planning. A process server showed up at my office with papers for an emergency hearing. Tessa was claiming I had fraudulently removed her from the lease and illegally evicted her from her primary residence. The documents were professionally prepared, citing various Minnesota housing statutes and claiming Tessa had been paying rent and maintaining the apartment as her primary residence for over a year. They were asking for immediate restoration of her tenancy rights and damages for illegal eviction. I called Angela immediately. They're claiming she was paying rent? Angela laughed. Do they have any proof of that? Not unless they forged something. Every rent payment came from my business account, same as always. Then they're about to learn an expensive lesson about filing frivolous lawsuits. Forward me everything and don't worry about it. But I was worried. Not about the legal case. I had documentation going back 5 years proving I was the sole financial responsible party for the apartment. I was worried about what Cole might do when their legal strategy failed. I didn't have to wait long to find out. The hearing was scheduled for the following Thursday. I arrived at the courthouse with Angela and a folder full of bank statements, lease agreements, and utility bills. Tessa showed up with Cole and a lawyer I didn't recognize, a young guy in an expensive suit who kept checking his phone. When we were called into the courtroom, Tessa's lawyer immediately launched into a passionate speech about domestic misuse, financial manipulation, and illegal eviction. He claimed Tessa had been systematically isolated from her support network and then thrown out of her home without due process. Your Honor, he said, my client has been paying rent on this apartment for over a year. She has receipts, bank statements, and witness testimony proving her residency. He handed a stack of documents to the judge. I watched Angela's eyebrows rise as she reviewed the copies. These are very interesting, she whispered to me, and very fake. When it was Angela's turn, she stood up with her own folder. Your Honor, opposing counsel has submitted what appears to be fabricated evidence to this court. These alleged rent payments from Mrs. Barker don't match any deposits in my client's account, which has been the sole source of rent payments for this property since the lease began. She handed over my bank statements, highlighted to show every rent payment for the past 5 years. Furthermore, the lease agreement clearly states that Nathan Barker is the primary leaseholder, with Tessa Barker listed only as an authorized resident. She has no legal claim to tenancy rights. The judge reviewed both sets of documents for several minutes. The courtroom was completely silent except for the sound of pages turning. Counselor, the judge finally addressed Tessa's lawyer, where did your client obtain these bank statements showing rent payments? From her personal records, Your Honor. And the account number on these statements? Can you verify this is actually your client's account? Tessa's lawyer glanced nervously at Cole, then back at the judge. I would need to confirm those details with my client. Please do so, now. What happened next was the most beautiful 30 seconds of my life. Tessa's lawyer huddled with her and Cole, whispering frantically. I could see Tessa's face getting redder and Cole's getting paler. Finally, the lawyer stood up. Your Honor, we need to request a continuance to verify some of the documentation. No, the judge said firmly. You brought this emergency motion claiming immediate harm to your client. Either you have evidence to support your claims or you don't. Which is it? Another whispered conference. This time, I could hear Cole hissing, You said this would work. Your Honor, Tessa's lawyer said finally, we need to withdraw our motion. Motion denied. Based on the evidence presented, it appears that opposing counsel has submitted falsified bank statements to this court. I'm dismissing this case with prejudice and referring this matter to the district attorney's office for investigation of potential fraud. The gavel came down like a gunshot. Cole bolted from the courtroom before the judge finished speaking. Tessa sat frozen in her chair, staring at the table. Angela leaned over to me. They just committed a felony in front of a judge, on the record. Outside the courthouse, Tessa caught up with me in the parking lot. Nathan, please, this wasn't my idea. Cole said it would work. He said we just needed to show that I contributed to the household by forging bank statements. I didn't know they were fake. He showed me documents. He said his lawyer friend could fix everything. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. I just wanted to come home. You made your choice, Tessa. You chose Cole over me. You chose your followers over our marriage. You chose to humiliate me on social media for content. I unlocked my car. Now you get to live with those choices. Where am I supposed to go? Cole kicked me out this morning when the lawyer called. My parents won't talk to me. I have nowhere. For just a moment, I felt sorry for her. Then I remembered her standing in our living room, telling 3,000 strangers that I didn't deserve her, that she was too good for me, that I needed to leave my own home. Figure it out. You're an influencer, right? I'm sure your followers will help. But Tessa's follower count had dropped to 8,000 and was still falling. The courthouse footage was already online, posted by someone who'd been live tweeting the hearing. #FakeInfluencer was trending locally. I drove back to my apartment feeling like I should be happy, but mostly I just felt empty. 5 years of marriage gone, my social circle destroyed. Even my friendship with Cole, toxic as it had become, was over. What I didn't expect was how quickly our mutual friends would choose sides and how consistently they'd choose wrong. The first call came that evening from Jake Morrison, a guy I'd known since high school. Jake and his wife Sarah had been regular fixtures at our dinner parties and game nights. Nathan, man, what the hell happened today? Tessa called Sarah crying, said you had her arrested. She wasn't arrested, Jake. She tried to use forged documents to steal my apartment. Come on, dude. That's not what happened. She just wanted to come home. Did she mention the part where she broke up with me on Instagram Live and tried to kick me out of my own place? She said that was just a misunderstanding. She was emotional. She didn't mean it literally. I could hear Sarah in the background telling Jake what to say. Look, Nathan, we've all been friends for years. Can't you guys just work this out? Maybe go to counseling or something? Jake, she committed fraud. In court. It's on the public record. Sarah says Cole explained everything. The documents weren't fake. They were just formatted differently. It was a miscommunication with the lawyer. That's when I realized I wasn't just losing my wife. I was losing my entire social network. Over the next week, the calls kept coming. Mark and Jennifer Chen, who'd been our couple friends for 3 years. Nathan, we're really disappointed in how you handled this. Tessa made a mistake, but destroying her life seems excessive. Tom and Lisa Rodriguez, our neighbors from the building. We saw what happened online. It was pretty harsh, man. She's been crying in the lobby every day. Dave and Michelle Weber, college friends who'd introduced me to Tessa in the first place. We feel responsible for this whole situation. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive her? Every conversation followed the same pattern. They'd heard Tessa's version of events, usually filtered through Cole's interpretation, and they'd decided I was the villain. The fact that she'd publicly humiliated me, forged legal documents, and committed fraud didn't matter. What mattered was that she was the one crying, the one asking for help, the one who seemed like the victim. Social media made it worse. Tessa had posted a long, emotional video about surviving narcissistic misuse and escaping a controlling relationship. She talked about how I'd isolated her from her dreams, monitored her finances, and then had her illegally evicted when she tried to stand up for herself. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. You're so brave for sharing your story. I went through the same thing with my ex. Men like that are dangerous. Stay strong. My friends shared the video. They commented with heart emojis and messages of support. They tagged other mutual friends to make sure everyone saw it. Nobody shared the courthouse footage. Nobody mentioned the forged documents. Nobody talked about the Instagram live stream where she'd tried to kick me out first. The breaking point came 2 weeks later at Murphy's Pub, our usual Friday night spot. I walked in to find Jake, Sarah, Mark, Jennifer, Tom, Lisa, Dave, and Michelle all sitting at our regular table, with Cole. They saw me come in, and the conversation stopped. 8 people I'd considered close friends, having drinks with the man who'd helped my wife try to steal my home. Jake waved me over. Nathan, come sit down. We're all here. We can finally talk this through. I walked to the table, but I didn't sit down. Talk what through, exactly? Sarah spoke up, her voice gentle but condescending. We've all been talking, and we think there's been a lot of miscommunication. Cole explained what really happened with the legal stuff. Oh, did he? What's his explanation for the forged bank statements? Cole leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. Nathan, those weren't forged. Tessa had been contributing to the household expenses through other means. The lawyer just presented the information in a way the judge didn't understand. Other means? Groceries, utilities, maintenance. She was paying her fair share, just not directly to the landlord. Mark nodded. That makes sense. Sarah does the same thing. She pays for groceries and I pay rent. It's still a partnership. Except Tessa wasn't paying for groceries or utilities. I have 5 years of bank statements proving I paid for everything. Jennifer sighed. Nathan, this is exactly what Tessa was talking about. You're so focused on who paid for what that you can't see the emotional labor she was contributing. Emotional labor? She tried to break up with me on social media for content. She was expressing her feelings, Lisa said. Maybe not in the best way, but she was trying to be honest about her needs. I looked around the table at these people I'd known for years. People I'd helped move apartments. People whose kids I'd babysat. People I'd lent money to when they were struggling. They were all nodding along, completely convinced that I was the problem. So, let me get this straight, I said. Tessa publicly humiliates me, tries to illegally evict me from my own apartment, commits fraud in court, and I'm the bad guy for not taking her back. Dave held up his hands. Nobody's saying you're a bad guy, Nathan. We're just saying maybe you could have handled it differently. How? You could have talked to her privately instead of embarrassing her in front of thousands of people, Michelle said. She was the one who went live. She was the one who made it public. Cole finally spoke up. Nathan, I know you're hurt, but Tessa's really struggling. She lost her apartment, most of her followers, her income. She's been sleeping on couches for 2 weeks. And whose fault is that? Look, man, I take responsibility for my part in this. I gave her some bad advice about the legal situation, but she's paying the price now, and she just wants to make things right. Sarah leaned forward. She wants to apologize, Nathan. She wants to work things out. After she forged documents to try to steal my home. She made a mistake, Jake said. People make mistakes. The question is whether you're going to be the kind of person who forgives or the kind who holds grudges forever. I looked around the table one more time. 8 people who'd decided that Tessa's tears were more important than her actions. 8 people who'd chosen to believe Cole's lies over documented evidence. 8 people who thought I should just forget about fraud, theft, and public humiliation because people make mistakes. You know what? I said. You're right. Tessa did make mistakes, but the biggest mistake was mine, thinking any of you were actually my friends. I turned and walked out of Murphy's pub. Behind me, I heard Sarah call out, Nathan, don't be like this. But I was done being anything other than exactly like this. The next morning, I started planning my real revenge. It took me 3 weeks to put all the pieces in place. 3 weeks of careful research, strategic planning, and patient preparation. Because if there's one thing I learned in commercial real estate, it's that the best deals happen when the other party doesn't see them coming. First, I hired a private investigator to document Cole's business practices. Turns out his multiple 6-figure businesses were mostly pyramid schemes and fake coaching programs. He'd been investigated by the Better Business Bureau twice and had outstanding judgments against him in 3 states. Second, I reached out to Tessa's former sponsors, the skincare company, the fitness brand, the meal delivery service that had dropped her after the courthouse incident. I provided them with detailed documentation of her fraudulent business practices, including screenshots of her inflating engagement numbers and buying fake followers. Third, I contacted the district attorney's office to follow up on the fraud referral from our court case. Turns out, they were very interested in Cole's pattern of helping clients fabricate financial documents. But the real masterstroke was simpler than any of that. I bought Murphy's pub. The owner, Sean Murphy, had been trying to sell for 6 months. The location was good, but the business was struggling with debt and needed major renovations. It was exactly the kind of distressed property I specialized in. We closed on a Thursday. I took possession on Friday. And on Saturday night, I was behind the bar when my former friends walked in for their usual drinks. The look on their faces when they saw me was worth every penny I'd paid for the place. Jake recovered first. Nathan, what are you doing here? Working, I said, wiping down a glass. I own the place now. Sarah's mouth fell open. You bought Murphy's? Closed yesterday. Thought it was time for some new management. I smiled. What can I get you folks to drink? They stood there in a cluster by the door, whispering among themselves. I could see them trying to decide whether to leave or stay. Finally, Mark stepped forward. Look, Nathan, We know you're still upset about the whole Tessa situation, but... Oh, I'm not upset at all, I interrupted. In fact, I should thank you. All of you. Jennifer frowned. Thank us for what? For showing me exactly who you really are. It was educational. Tom tried to diffuse the tension. Come on, man. We're all adults here. Can't we just move past this? Absolutely. In fact, I've moved so far past it that I've made some new policies for the pub. I reached under the bar and pulled out a laminated sign. No outside food or drinks, no loitering, no soliciting, and absolutely no tolerance for customers who support fraud, theft, or adultery. I hung the sign on the wall behind me. Now, are you ordering drinks, or do I need to ask you to leave? Dave stepped forward, his face red. You can't ban us from a public bar because of a personal dispute. Actually, I can. It's called the right to refuse service. It's my business, my property, my rules. Lisa looked like she was about to cry. Nathan, this is our place. We've been coming here for years. And now you can find somewhere else to drink. I hear Applebee's has great happy hour specials. They left without ordering anything. I watched through the window as they stood in the parking lot, arguing among themselves. Finally, they got in their cars and drove away. But I wasn't done yet. Monday morning, I called Angela Morrison. I want to file a civil suit against Cole Ramsey for fraud, conspiracy, and intentional interference with my marriage. Nathan, we already won the criminal case. Why do you want to open this up again? Because I want him to pay. Literally. I want damages for the legal fees, the emotional distress, the damage to my reputation. I want him to understand that actions have consequences. Angela was quiet for a moment. It's going to be expensive, and there's no guarantee we'll collect anything even if we win. I don't care about collecting. I care about making sure his name is permanently associated with fraud in every Google search for the next 10 years. All right, I'll draft the papers. The lawsuit hit Cole like a freight train. Within days, his remaining clients started canceling their contracts. His social media accounts were flooded with questions about the fraud allegations. His landlord served him with an eviction notice. But the best part came 2 weeks later when Tessa called me. Nathan, please, you have to drop the lawsuit against Cole. Why would I do that? Because he's broke. He can't afford a lawyer. He's going to lose everything. Good. This isn't about him anymore. This is about you being vindictive. No, Tessa. This is about consequences. You and Cole decided to play games with my life. Now you get to find out what happens when you lose. I'll do anything, she said. I'll sign any divorce papers you want. I'll waive any claim to your property. Just please stop destroying him. You really love him, don't you? She was quiet for a long moment. Yes. Then you should have thought about that before you tried to steal my apartment. I hung up. The final piece of my revenge came together a month later when the district attorney's office called to tell me that Cole had been indicted on charges of fraud and conspiracy. He was facing up to 5 years in prison. That night, I was closing up Murphy's when someone knocked on the door. I looked through the glass and saw Jake standing outside. I unlocked the door. We're closed. I know, I just wanted to talk. I let him in and locked the door behind him. Drink? Yeah, whiskey. I poured 2 glasses of Jameson and slid one across the bar. Jake took a sip, then looked up at me. You really did it, didn't you? You destroyed all of them. I didn't destroy anyone. I just stopped protecting them from the consequences of their own actions. Tessa's working at a call center now, living in a studio apartment in Bloomington. Cole's probably going to prison. And our whole friend group is gone. Nobody talks to anybody anymore. Sarah blames me for not seeing your side. Mark and Jennifer moved back to Chicago. Tom and Lisa got divorced. I sipped my whiskey. That sounds like a lot of problems that aren't mine. Jake was quiet for a minute, staring into his glass. You know what the worst part is? You were right about all of it. Tessa was using you. Cole was a fraud. We all chose sides without knowing the facts. Yes, you did. So, what now? Do we all just pretend the last 10 years of friendship never happened? I finished my drink and started washing the glass. Jake, you had a choice. When you saw the evidence, when you knew the truth, you could have stood by your friend. Instead, you chose to believe a con man and a woman who'd publicly humiliated me. We thought we were helping. No, you thought you were avoiding conflict. There's a difference. Jake finished his whiskey and stood up. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I know you are, but sorry doesn't change anything. He walked to the door, then turned back. Are you happy now? With all of this? I thought about it for a moment. Was I happy? Tessa was gone. Cole was facing prison. My former friends were scattered and miserable. I owned a successful bar and had more money than I knew what to do with. I'm satisfied, I said finally. Sometimes that's enough. Jake left, and I finished closing up the bar. As I walked to my car, I thought about the last 6 months. The betrayal, the humiliation, the legal battles, the systematic destruction of everyone who'd wronged me. It had been the most expensive, time-consuming, emotionally exhausting period of my life, and I'd do it all again without hesitation, because some lessons can only be taught through consequences, and some people need to learn that actions have prices they can't afford to pay. I drove home to my apartment, the one I'd never lost, the one that had started this whole mess, and poured myself one last drink. Tomorrow, Tessa would be answering phones for $8 an hour. Cole would be meeting with his public defender. My former friends would be dealing with the wreckage of their own relationships, and I would be exactly where I'd always been, successful, independent, and completely uninterested in forgiveness.